Hi guys, Jennifer here, and I'm with Gwendolyn Darë, who is going to be sharing with you about her herbed goat, which is a newer product that you launched, the goat cheese, and I just think it's fabulous. It's so creamy and it's got great tang. And I haven't actually tried the herbs, so I'm so excited to get that and offer it in our box. So, how did you get to the point where you were making sheds?
Yeah, so our Oh My Goat that we like to call it, we like
Mhm.
puns. That one took a really long time. We wanted to ensure that the cultures that we used really made you think of a goat cheese with that like earthy, tangy flavor.
Yeah.
But we're never going to add anything that's not real. It had to be from culture. So this specific product is the same base as all of our cheeses. It goes through the same fermentation, but then it has two different cultures added to it, which is a secret. But they took a while to figure out which ones would interact in a way that we want our medium to create the flavors that we want. So we got the plain goat cheese down first, launched that, and then wanted to do something more kind of specific for the holidays, but it's obviously good all year round. But we went with the herb crust and with a pink peppercorn as well, just to kind of differentiate it from that herb, kind of boursin flavor. We took it up a notch with some pink peppercorns. So yeah, it was a growth off of something that was a labor of love to figure out, and we were so excited once we did.
Yeah, so do you use different cultures for like different lines or different, like you do it based on different cheeses, or how do you decide what culture to use?
This was the first time. The goat cheese was the first time that we kind of differentiated from our usual culturing process.
Uh-huh.
Our dips, our cheesecakes, our wedges all use the same base. And so we still use that base, like I said, for our goat cheese, but it needed more. It would be a goat cheese already if we just used that base. So that took a lot of experimentation to figure out which naturally occurring cultures could work on our cashew base.
Yeah, it's interesting from my experience. I didn't play around with a lot of different types of cultures. I had one culture, and that was what I would use to ferment all of my cashew cream that I would then, do something with after that was cultured. So it's really interesting to think that, they have different flavor profiles, or I mean, clearly they have different cultures. Like there's a brie culture, right? And then there's one for blue, and then there's one for Swiss, or there's different styles. So it's interesting how they have different personality.
Yeah, and we had to think outside of the block, another pun we like to say, because there wasn't a goat culture. That's you get goat cheese flavor usually from goat's milk, and so yeah, that was it took a lot of cheese wizardry happened
Yeah,
to make that
for
cheese.
sure. Does it work in a warm environment? Like does it get just kind of soft, kind of like a goat cheese?
Yeah, as far as the culturing or
No, when like on the post, when I purchase it, do you recommend it for a warm environment, like on a pizza, or primarily more like as a spread?
I usually eat it on salads, honestly, so cold
Uh-huh.
application. But I've had it in pastries, so it holds up well, and it's not going to ooze or anything like that. But I think it works well in a warm environment too.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you. So when did you start your business and how did you get started?
Yeah, so I started the company in my first farmers market was in September 2019, and up until that point, I got a logo at the beginning of 2019 to really set myself into this is going to be a business that I'm going to work towards, and then I spent the next 9 months of experimenting in my kitchen and having the students at the vegan cafe that I worked at taste everything. So they were my harshest critics and my biggest cheerleaders. And yeah, the first farmers market I went to was the start of it all.
And so you were saying you had worked in a vegan restaurant. Were you cooking, or have you always been in culinary, or was there something you were doing before that and something changed and brought you into this domain?
Yeah, so I moved to Asheville, North Carolina to get my degree in biology, and then I started working in restaurants after that. All my summer jobs were restaurants. My dad was a chef growing up, so I was very intertwined in that and
Uh-huh.
really loved that fast-paced environment. But I wanted to marry my degree with the passion for food that I had. So that was the original kind of intention. I was like, what do I want to do, and how can I create something that I need, my family needs, the rest of the world obviously needs, and that's why I
So
pinpointed vegan cheese.
what is the influence of with your biology education? With how do you use that with what you're doing now?
I think it's crucial in what we do. I'm a big believer that I don't like to call it cheese unless cultures are involved, and so that didn't scare me away because I really love the biological aspects of the fermentation process that we do.
Or do you have a restaurant, or you're doing manufacturing? Not
Yeah, we
just
just have a
big
menu.
deal.
Yeah, I know it's a big
Yeah,
it's a big thing, but yeah, we just do manufacturing. We have people pick up orders and stuff there, but it's not
yeah.
retail facing.
Do you ever do any kind of like classes or education where people come in and learn how to do anything, or is that something that you would think at some point you might consider?
I have done that. When we were in our last space, it was in the basement of the restaurant where I actually was serving tables. That's where I
Mhm.
started the company. And so I had a class one day upstairs when, they were closed, and that was really beautiful. We talked about recipes and really got into the nitty gritty of stuff. And people always want to come out to, I get asked all the time if people can have a tour of our facility. And it's like, you can, it's just really loud.
Yeah,
It's a lot of blenders. It's a lot of like hustle and bustle. And, so yeah, I love sharing how I do what I do, how
yeah,
it relates to fermentation, and to rethink, having a new medium and how you get cultures to give you what you want. And it's been a while though. So that's a good reminder that's probably needed.
yeah. Very cool. So tell me about how you came up with your name, because I'm sure you get a lot of people thinking like Dare, like I've seen your the play on words with the Dare drug shirts.
Yeah, so my middle name is Darë. So I grew up in Dare County, North Carolina. Gwendolyn Dare Hageman is my name. And I joke that I was destined for this from birth because when
Oh,
I started the company, I was like, man, I really want a pun. And that was the first thing my friend and I wrote down was Dare with umlauts over the E. And it's pronounced dairy, but there's no dairy. It was, yeah, very, very serendipitous.
yeah, I've always enjoyed plays on words, and it's fun to see all the naming conventions that people come up with to name their cheeses. So you, for the most part, you name them what they are. How did you make that choice, as opposed to like, smoked CHDR for cheddar?
Right, right. Well, like I said, I can call it cheese because cultures are involved. So, calling it, we used to actually, maybe you used to get the labels where we would say it was brie. And then we kind of changed from that, and just now it's just generic plant-based cheese wedge, just for like both the legal implications of the
Mhm.
big dairy coming for small makers that are making vegan cheeses, but also so that there's no that preconceived notion of what it should be when the consumer tries it. It's a roasted garlic wedge, and so that you get to enjoy it with that in mind and nothing else.
Yeah,
The only time we did throw in the naming was with goat cheese, but like we named it "Oh My Goat" so that it's a pun, and it still gives homage to what it is, but
yeah,
it's not exact name.
yeah. Like me, I'm sure you've seen a lot of companies come and go over the years. What do you attribute your being able to go the distance and still be relevant, so many years after having started?
Yeah, I think that's my approach to business. This is my life, and so I approach it very intentionally and with sustainability in mind, and don't have much to fall back on. And so I really wanted to build something strong to build from. Um, and it's just me, I'm the founder. I'm the sole. I've funded it. There's no one telling me what to do. And so I get to make those really intentional choices. And I think
Mm.
that's important in business, to be in control of your destiny and align and not move too fast. And it's been slow growth, but we're a pretty big business in my opinion. And it's been because of being able to see the long term, but really focus and take my time in the interim.
Yeah, that's great. Um, any plans like, is there anything on that you can talk to that are maybe flavors or things that you're looking at bringing in, or different styles of cheese that you might not currently offer?
Yeah, I want to say this is the first year we don't have something kind of in the pipeline. We usually do. But with our new packaging for the dips, that's kind of changed us in adding anything new now that we have, big MOQ to meet. And the packaging is always the hardest part with creating new products. So yeah, right now we're making sure our foundation of our pretty big product line is strong. And then I would say next year we'll have something new.
All right, cool. Do you want to just like quickly kind of cover what your product lines are, like the different things that you offer?
Yeah, so all of our products, we have wedges. We've got 5 of those: roasted garlic, balsamic fig, pepper jack, lusty mustard, and smoked cheddar. And then we have our dips. We've got the queso blanco, spicy queso, smoked pimento, and original cream cheese. We've got cheesecakes. We've got 3 flavors of that now: original, strawberry, and chocolate. And our goat cheeses, 2 of those: oh my goat and herb goat.
And you're primarily all cashew in your
Exactly.
cheeses. And your cheesecakes, anything like notable or special, like what are you making your crust out of, and what are you using as your sweet base?
Yeah, we keep the crust for our cheesecake super simple. It's mostly oats, dates, and cashews,
Mhm.
and that's so that we can make sure our gluten-free friends can enjoy. And this is the only time we've ever used sugar in anything, but we do use sugar in our cheesecakes for that kind of traditional homage to a cheesecake. That is the one product I'd say that we would shift in the future, is to make something slightly healthier, still really delicious, but still, gluten free, soy free.
Yeah, and you had mentioned the like your care and consideration for your ingredients and wanting to have really clean um ingredients. And so, definitely there's, there's a spectrum, right, where it can go from one spectrum to the other of it being really more whole food based, and then going to where you're bringing in ingredients that maybe are more highly processed. So you're one of those that's it's really quite wholesome and whole ingredients. And so I'm so grateful for that, because we need, everybody kind of needs to bring more of that kind of food back, I think, into their world. There's,
Yeah, that's how I view plant-based. It's
yeah,
made from plants. It's not a bunch of it's natural things. It's
yeah.
whole. Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for your time today, and appreciate, I know it's later for you there. So thank you so much for sharing some of your stories with us and telling us about your beautiful products.
Yeah. So happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.